Tonight you're going to open an app and count something. Maybe it's calories, maybe it's carbs, maybe it's just guilt dressed up as a number. You'll tell yourself, this is discipline, but the real answer is far stranger. Your ancestors never counted a single calorie, and most of them ate better than you do. Not because they were wiser, not because they had some secret plan, they simply had no choice. For nearly all of human history, there was no such thing as a diet. There was only food, or the absence of it. And what that food actually was might surprise you. Start with a question you've probably never asked. What did a human eat 2 million years ago, before agriculture, before fire was fully mastered, before anyone had a word for breakfast? The old answer was simple: man the hunter. Meat, meat, and more meat. It's the image burned into pop culture. Cavemen dragging home a mammoth leg. Steaks around a fire. It's clean. It's dramatic, it's mostly wrong. Researcher Catherine Milton spent years studying the diets of wild primates, comparing them to what we know about early hominins. Her work pointed to something unglamorous. Plants, roots, tubers, fruit when it was in season, and it usually wasn't. Insects when you could catch them. Meat was rare. Meat was work. And meat, when it came, was an event worth remembering. Not a daily meal. Think about that for a second. An event worth remembering. Your ancestors didn't decide what to eat at 7 a.m. based on a craving. They ate what existed. If the rains were late, the tubers were small. If the herd moved on, so did the hunger. This is where the diet you're imagining falls apart. There was no single ancient diet. There were thousands of them, one for every river. Every forest, every coastline humans reached. A group near the Arctic Circle ate almost nothing but fat and protein for stretches of the year. A group near the equator ate mostly plants, insects, and whatever fruit hadn't been claimed by birds first. Both were human. Both were normal. So why do we imagine one true ancestral diet? Why does it feel like there's a correct way to eat, buried somewhere in our evolutionary past, waiting to be rediscovered? Part of the answer comes from a shift that changed everything. Cooking. Primatologist Richard Wrangham built an entire theory around this single idea. Cooked food changes you before it even reaches your mouth. Heat breaks down fiber. It denatures proteins. It turns a tough root into something your gut barely has to work for. Wrangham argued that once early humans started cooking, roughly 2 million years ago by his estimate, something remarkable happened inside the body. Digestion got cheaper, energy got freed up, and that spare energy went somewhere unexpected: your brain. The human brain burns through a staggering share of your daily energy, even now while you're sitting still, doing nothing but thinking about lunch. Cooking didn't just change what was on the plate. It may have helped build the organ that's reading these words right now. Here's the part that should stop you. Cooking wasn't a health trend. It wasn't chosen because it was virtuous. It was chosen because it worked. Less chewing, fewer parasites, more calories extracted from the same handful of food. Ancient humans weren't optimizing their macros. They were surviving on margins so thin that a single bad season could end a family line. Does that sound like the confident wellness influencers promising you the one true ancestral diet? It shouldn't, because the truth is messier and far more interesting. Consider starch. For decades, the popular story insisted that early humans barely touched carbohydrates, that grains and starchy roots were a mistake introduced by farming, something your body was never built for. But archaeologist Amanda Henry examined something most people never think to study: dental plaque, fossilized tartar scraped from ancient teeth, preserved for tens of thousands of years, holding microscopic starch granules trapped inside. Her findings showed starch residue from wild grains and tubers going back well before agriculture. Humans weren't just eating meat and fruit, they were eating starch, cooked and raw, long before anyone planted a single seed on purpose. So, the no-carbs version of the ancient diet doesn't hold up either. Neither does the all-meat version. What holds up is something less marketable. Flexibility. Humans survived by eating almost anything that wouldn't kill them, adjusting constantly to whatever the land offered that particular week. That flexibility is arguably the actual ancestral diet, not a menu, a strategy. And that strategy came with brutal honesty built in. There was no snacking between meals because there often weren't meals in the sense you understand them. There was no overeating because abundance rarely lasted. Feast, when it happened, was followed by long stretches of very little. Your body still remembers this rhythm, even if your calendar doesn't. This is where the modern mirror gets uncomfortable. Your body was shaped by scarcity. It hoards fat efficiently. It craves sugar and salt intensely, because for most of human history, those were rare and valuable, worth chasing hard when they appeared. Now they're everywhere, all the time, at every gas station and vending machine you pass. The mismatch isn't a personal failure. It's a timing problem. Your instincts are running software built for a world that mostly stopped existing about 10,000 years ago. There's a third piece of evidence worth sitting with. Anthropologist Herman Poncer studied a modern hunter-gatherer group, the Hadza of Tanzania, measuring their actual daily energy expenditure with the same precision used on elite athletes. The surprising result: despite walking miles daily and doing physically demanding work, their total energy burn wasn't wildly higher than a sedentary person in a wealthy country. Their bodies had simply adapted, tightening energy use elsewhere to compensate. What does that tell you? It tells you the human body is a negotiator, not a fixed machine. It adjusts to the food available, the effort required, the environment it's dropped into. There was never one setting labeled correct. There was only constant recalibration. So what did ancient humans actually eat? Tubers dug from hard ground with sharpened sticks. Fruit stolen before monkeys got there first. Insects more often than most people want to admit. Fish and shellfish along coastlines, rich in the fats your brain quietly depends on. Occasional meat, sometimes scavenged from a kill made by something faster and stronger. Starchy plants, roasted over fire once that fire could be trusted to hold. No labels, no macros, no guilt. What they didn't have was choice on demand. That's the piece almost every modern diet trend quietly leaves out. Scarcity wasn't a lifestyle. It was survival, and it was often terrifying. You have something they never had. Abundance, available at every hour, requiring no effort beyond opening an app or a fridge door. That abundance isn't the enemy your ancestors' bodies expect it to be, and it isn't the miracle it sometimes gets marketed as either. It's just new enough that biology hasn't caught up and won't for a long, long time. So tonight, when you open that app and count something, remember what you're actually counting against. Not a golden age of perfect eating, not a lost diet waiting to be reclaimed. Just a species that ate whatever it could find, adapted constantly, and somehow, against long odds, kept going long enough to build the very brain now worrying about it. The real answer was never a diet at all. It was a body built to keep you alive through uncertainty, still running, still adjusting, still asking the same quiet question it always has. Not what should you eat? What can you find, and what will it cost you to survive on it?